Okay then guys, welcome to the latest issue of Retro Gamer. I'm editor Darran Jones.
And I'm production editor, Drew Sleep.
And this month, well, we've got a system that you owned, haven't we?
Yeah, I didn't have the Mega Drive 2, I had the Mega Drive 1 because, it's better. It just looks nicer. But my dad took me down to a market, bought it with Doom, and I was really, really excited to play it. Plugged it in, and the damn thing didn't work. So ever since then, I've hated.
Yeah, we've had a few people. I'll quickly mention this now. We have had a few people say, "Why have you used the Mega Drive 2 and the Mega CD 2 and not the originals?" The main reason is obviously if you look at it structurally, if you had the original systems, you would have this big, huge block in the middle. And one of the things you have to think about when you're basically designing covers is you need somewhere for your editorial to go. And basically, if we had this big multi-stacked system, the Tower of Power as it's known, it just wasn't working. So we've gone for this one, and I think it looks pretty cool. But anyway, let's move on to the actual main
magazine.
Yeah. I've totally lost my words then.
That's what we make. We make magazines, right?
So it's not really been a great month. We've lost two industry legends. Dave Needle was instrumental in creating the Amiga, the 3DO and the Atari Lynx, while Fergus McGovern was in charge of Probe Entertainment, and which later became, I think it was Acclaim Cheltenham, if my history is correct.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
We've managed to get some nice tributes from various people involved in the industry. But yeah, it's just a rather sad thing. Another thing that's happening this month is the Spectrum Vega has returned.
All the retro consoles, right?
Yeah. We like the idea of the Vega more than the reality of it. The idea of having a Spectrum with like 1,000 games which you can link up to your TV is excellent. We weren't massively pleased with the build quality though. We weren't massively impressed with the actual games included because there's a lot of obvious ones which just aren't on there. But we've managed to speak to the main guys behind it, and it's there's a lot of interest. It's already smashed its Kickstarter, so it proves that there's people out there who want this device. But
indeed,
I don't know. Personally, I just want a little bit more from it. But there's still time until it comes out later this year, so I guess we'll find out. We got a cool collector this month. She's got a decent SNES collection, but she collects all sorts of stuff. So I've obviously had an interest in that.
Yeah, you love your SNES collection, don't you?
Yeah, due to my Super Famicom, I'm kind of moving into that. The big cover feature is obviously Sega's big gamble, and it was a gamble because they had the Mega Drive. The Mega Drive was doing incredibly well, but there were these other consoles on the horizon. There was competitors. CD was becoming a thing.
Everyone was developing different CD-based prototypes, and I think Sega wanted to jump in on that.
CD-ROM was a huge deal in the early 90s. So this basically looks at whether it was the right decision for Sega to make. Not necessarily so much with the Mega CD, but definitely the 32X because it was a needless add-on. And
you can justify the CD, I think. Yeah. I mean, my friend had a CD, and Sonic CD was actually very, very good.
Yars' Revenge. Let's talk about Yars' Revenge.
Yeah, it's made by Howard Scott Warshaw, who people know made E.T. and made famous by the Game Over documentary that's on Netflix at the moment as well. It's a really interesting looking game. I think the glitchy shield, I think it is in the middle, is probably what drew me to it the most.
Yeah, which is this thing here, and if you don't know, the whole thing is that basically you go into this and it kind of acts as a shield where nothing can attack you, but subsequently you can't attack as well. So it's all a case of your little fly guy, and you're flying over here and you're trying to hit to this thing here. And once you've broken through that, you get a missile on the other side of the screen, which you can then direct to try and blow that up. Sounds quite complicated, but it's actually it's a really, really innovative and clever shoot 'em up. Operation Wolf, classic arcade game.
Oh, yeah.
One day we'll get it on the cover. This is a history piece, so it looks at all the games in the series. And while many will know Operation Wolf and Operation Thunderbolt, which added a second player into the screen sections, you probably didn't know that there's other games, which I won't tell you about because you can read about them in the feature. Yay! Keeping with the arcade thing, we got Super Monaco GP.
Yeah.
This was huge actually, and it's quite interesting because it's one of the few Sega arcade games from the time where nobody still seems to know who actually made it. The most obvious choice is Yu Suzuki because he was using this super scaling technology all the time. So where you've got sprites at different sizes which rush towards you to give you a nice sense of speed and perception. Is that the Monaco Track. I mean, I
think
know
so,
something
yeah.
all about racing, so
Well,
I don't know how accurate
we're not the right
is.
person to talk about it, then, are we?
It's not the first time that Sega's done a game like this, but it's the first time where it had such stunning graphics, and it had conversions which were, some of them were great, some of them weren't so much.
We actually talked to the guy who made the Spectrum version, and he's not keen on it, and he's
No.
quite frank with it. Actually, it's quite nice to actually see someone go like, "Yeah, it was bloody awful."
40 years of Apple. That's
I know.
a thing, isn't it? 40 years.
Yeah,
Can you
Apple's a
imagine
thing.
it?
Wow.
And that's Apple the company, not the fruit, as some people were asking. But there is an Apple, but it's definitely the company. I'm pretty sure that Apple's have been going a lot longer than that.
You'd like to think, yeah.
No, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
This is cool, actually. I'm quite excited about this. This is a brand new feature.
Yeah.
And
What is it, Darren?
Well, what it is it's called License to Thrill, and because that's a clever play on a James Bond movie that we know of, and it basically looks at conversions of popular movies from the 80s and 90s, and how they fared on their conversions. And we've got little cool things here like here's sequences from the movie, how well were they replicated in the game.
Yeah.
We've spoken to people who obviously worked on the conversion and stuff. And while we have covered Robocop in the past in the magazine, we thought that if we were going to do something like this, Robocop's like the perfect place to start. And if you pay attention at the top, you get a nice little hint as to what's coming next month. Yeah, we're really pleased with the way this has turned out. We feel we've covered all the bases. So if there's anything that you would like to see in future episodes, obviously let us know in the little comment section down the bottom. That'd be cool. Blagger and Son of Blagger.
Yeah.
Commodore 16 it started off on originally, and then it moved to the C64.
I think so, yeah.
Back in the old days, if something was popular, you copied it.
Yeah.
So when you look at...
It kind of resembles Manic Miner, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You know?
so you'd have a lot of developers, and their very first games were typically clones of arcade games because that's what was popular at the time, that's what they liked, so that's what they copied. And the story with Blagger is that they saw that Manic Miner was out, and they said, "Oh, that's a good game, isn't it? How about you copy it? You know, how about you make a version of that for the Commodore?" And that's what he did. And didn't he do the original in like 2 weeks or something?
It was something obscene, like really
and it's
quick.
a really, really good platformer. And so this covers both the original and the sequel. And we've got a rather cool map of the sequel. And there's little anecdotes from Tony Crowther.
Speaking of copying, you can see a Pac-Man ghost there as well, and a polo.
That's what happened in the 80s. It was a free-for-all. This month's Minority Report has been inspired by my recent collection for the Super Famicom.
Yeah, Darren, buy something. We cover it.
And but I mean, what's interesting with the Super Famicom, known as the Super Nintendo over here, is that while the Super Nintendo has got this massive diverse library, there's a huge amount of games which never came out over here. For example, you've got this one here, which is based on a manga which ran for 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is pretty cool as well. I mean, Road Rash never came out on the actual Super Nintendo. The great thing with this, though, is that once you knock them off their bikes, you can actually jump off your own bike, beat them up, and then nick their bike. So if you don't want to save like 40,000 gold for a new bike, you can just beat up somebody else and nick theirs. Obviously, we don't condone that in real life, but in the game, it's great fun. Rare.
You love Rare, don't you?
Well,
yeah.
I mean, they've been knocking around the industry for, a very long time now. They started off as Ultimate. A lot of people say that the Spectrum years were their golden years. There's just as many people out there, though, who will argue that the N64 period was massively important. I mean, when you look at their catalogue, Blast Corps, you've got GoldenEye, you've got Diddy Kong Racing, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark. They're all quality games, and we've been able to get hold of a huge amount of developers who worked at the company.
About 5 interviews, I think.
And yeah, it's just really, really pleased with the way this turned out. Finally, we have Chuck Somerville. He's best known for designing Chips Challenge, and he's one of these people that when you first go, speak about commissioning it, and you're like, oh yeah, Chips Challenge, and but what else did he do? And then you find out that he actually did quite a lot.
California Games,
and
quite a few of the games.
Yeah,
actually.
he was involved in a huge amount of games at Epix. He's converted various games to various systems, and he's been around in the industry for a very, very long time. So we've got Street Fighter V reviewed. We've got the Homebrew, which has obviously been redone, as you will now know.
Should we talk about what's coming up, Darren?
Oh yeah, let's talk about what's coming up. So we have
exclusive art. Look at that.
This is Croc. Now
he's reading an issue of Retro Gamer. And Gobbo's there. Look at that.
And this has been put together for us by basically Croc's designer, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
you'll see it in the next issue as well, where we've got an actual behind the scenes of the actual game, and we got lots of other cool stuff as well. So there's 20 years of Quake.
Yep.
20 years. I mean, that's mental, isn't it?
That's
Makes me feel old.
That's a massive portion of my life. Yeah.
There's a big piece on the Commodore VIC-20, which I believe is celebrating its 35th anniversary. I want to say
it's old.
It's old.
Yeah.
We've got Renegade, we've got Desert Strike, we've got the history of Dead or Alive with an excellent interview for that.
Yep.
Cobra, as we've already mentioned. Yep. So hopefully there's a little bit of something for everyone, and that'll be on sale the 21st of April. So that's your issue, 153.
Fantastic.
I've been your editor, Darran Jones.
And I'm Drew Sleep.
And we'll see you next month.
Bye.